T1, get out!
Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to a pair of viewer replays. Today I've decided to have a look at the BAT CHAAAT, and yes, I know it's another top tier medium tank, but I don't think I've really covered the BAT CHAAAT that much in the past, and I tend to neglect mediums a bit generally, and I'm trying to redress that a bit, because obviously I don't play mediums that much, but I get sent, you know, a whole bunch of medium replays, and I've picked out a pair of BAT CHAAATs from that. Now, they're both very different games. They've got one or two things in common, but this first one is from Blayderunner, and it is an assault battle. He's on the defending team, and it's pretty good matchmaking. There's only a couple of tier 10s per side. About half of each team is tier 8. And that means he's got this is a nice setup for him. Just a nice setup for any kind of tier 10 tank. But this is going to be not the kind of game you think of when you think of the BAT CHAAAT. Now, the other thing I'm going to note is, yes, he's got a lot of premium ammunition, and I don't think it's necessary to have that much premium ammo on a tier 10 anything. Except maybe the Death Star, I suppose that's the one exception. So, just disposing of that 1390. Now, the BAT CHAAAT, I'm not going to talk about tactics too much, because obviously I don't have a BAT CHAAAT. I'm still only at tier 7 on the French light / medium line. So, I can't really talk about the tactics of this tank too much, because it's not really like any other tank. The lead up to it, the 1390 and the Lorraine, I think they kind of prepare you a bit for what it's like, but it is so much faster than either of those vehicles. It's got so much more firepower than either of those vehicles. So I don't know. I'm going to keep largely silent on that, I suppose. So this T1 10E5 is, I don't even know. He you know, is well aware that Blayderunner's there at this point, but you just watch what he does and what he keeps doing. Now, when I said this isn't the kind of game you think of when you think of a BAT CHAAAT game, well, the BAT CHAAAT's pretty fast, and you think of a BAT CHAAAT kind of whizzing all over the battlefield and popping up in unexpected places. However, possibly because this is an assault battle and he's on the defending team, he doesn't really have that option to get stuck in the same way. But all the same, he's going to be on this flank for a lot of this video. He's going to be sitting in the same place for a lot of this video. And maybe he could have taken advantage of the fact that this T1 10E5 seems to be alone. I mean, he's already taking advantage of this T1 and 10E5, who is being incredibly incautious. He's sitting with his turret side onto a BAT CHAAAT, for crying out loud. And it's already cost him dearly. Now, Blayderunner's just picking out targets of opportunity and unloading, basically. It's unfortunate he tracked that IS. As you can see, another feature of the BAT CHAAAT, it doesn't get a lot of ammunition to work with. And for the high-tier French, the light / medium line autoloaders, that's kind of a feature, I think, from tier 6 upwards. You just don't get a lot of ammo, so you have to place your shots quite carefully. Every wasted shell is a thing to cry over, basically. And if you waste several in a row, well, that could be a deal breaker in terms of whether something's going to be a win or a loss. Now, although he is going to be just sat on this flank for most of this battle, and although that's probably not the best tactic in a BAT CHAAAT, even given the circumstances by any means, we certainly can't say that he's not doing the damage, because he is. He's fired 2 clips, he's already taken out 1 tank, he's approaching 4,000 damage, and yes, now he's onto exclusively firing his heat shells. And I really don't know why he has so much heat, to be honest. That can almost be counterproductive with some tanks, because of course heat shells can be stopped by spaced armor, they can be stopped by people's tracks, which makes a lot of shots into the side of tanks much more tricky than they would be with, say, AP armor, because you can end up having your expensive heat shell being just eaten by somebody's tracks. And I've had that. E100s is another case where people fire a lot of heat, and sometimes that can really work against them, because they end up just wasting their incredibly expensive shell in your tracks, and that costs them time in terms of reloading as well. So I'm not convinced by this setup by any means, and maybe all the pro BAT CHAAAT players will go, well, actually, Jedi, maybe there's a valid reason for doing this, maybe it's just something Blade likes to do. Anyway, he's continuing to pick out targets. If he can take out that prop, that will be another kill. And it's almost a shame to waste the shell. I'd have almost let our prot get that guy in order that he could actually then conserve a shell. But he's managed to track this Death Star, and the guy's going to disappear. But hopefully that last shell actually went in and did some damage. Now he's down to 10 shells already. Over 5,000 damage. We can't say he isn't doing the damage. He may not be positioning himself the best on the battlefield. He's basically been in the same couple of squares the entire battle so far. But it's worked out that actually that's kind of worked for him. I'm not convinced it's the best tactics, but in this circumstance it has actually worked out alright. So he's got 3 kills. Just finishing his reload, he's looking to do more damage. Oh, okay, the 110 E5 finally got tired of being just shot in the side of the turret and actually came to look for Blayderunner. But Blayderunner, of course, has just reloaded, so this 125 is toast. Unfortunately, Blayderunner gets shot twice in the process, and he's lost now a bunch of health, and he's had to use his premium repair kit. So that's problematic, but he's still in the game. He's still got 7 shells, and there are still enemies to shoot. So he's going to have to be quite careful at this point. He does only have 7 shells, and if he doesn't make best use of those, well, the team could lose. Now this is an IS-7 he's aiming at, and the IS-7 was platooned with one of the enemy tier 8s, and that's how he's ended up in a tier 10 battle. And oh, that's unfortunate. See what I mean about heat shells? Now that might have bounced with regular AP anyway, it might just have tracked the guy, but there's a chance it would have tracked and penned at the same time, shooting at the... It clearly went in at the track there, and maybe the IS had the sufficient angle that it would have penned the axle as well, but we'll never know. Anyway, down to his last clip, and the rest of the team, I mean, it's come right down to it, 11-11. The IS-3 is probably dead, he's being ganged up on by a pair of tank destroyers. And there we go, he's died. The T-28 prot takes out the IS, which leaves this T-34 alone. And they need to deal with this guy quickly so they can then tackle the 2 remaining tank destroyers. Because if you're still tangling with a T-34 when the tank destroyers hove into view, well, that's it, game over. Because that's too many targets to do with at once. So here we go, T-34, and he's just got to unload at this guy's backside. There we go, bam! 5 kills, 2 shells left. Now, unless he manages to put one of those shells into a very low health enemy, he's probably not going to get that top gun. But you never know. He was clearly thinking about it, and well, I happen to know he was clearly thinking about it because he said he was thinking about it. I do have that slight advantage. So the 704 is nearly full health. The T28 is a bit more damaged, and the T28's kind of appeared at the side. Now, our T28, T95 rather, is going to take the hit. But that means that, there we go, he can actually unload those final 2 shells into the enemy T28. Now he's fairly low health, he's expended all his ammunition, he's got over 8,000 damage on the clock. Again, we cannot say he was not doing the damage. And he may even have done more than that because there were a couple of shells that were, fired blind. He did waste a couple, but on the whole I'd say, he made most of those count. Now the 704 is really low health, and can he get a ram? No he can't. Instead he rams this pillar. However, ramming is definitely on his mind because watch what happens next. And this is the crux of this replay. I didn't really pick this replay because it was, it was high damage, but it wasn't tactically outstanding. However, yeah, he really wanted that top gun. He really did. And what's a BAT CHAAAT to do when it's out of ammo? Well, exactly what he did do. So let's look at the scores. That was a first class. He had a high caliber, unsurprisingly. He did nearly, well, I say nearly 10,000. He did over 9,000. And that's closer to 10,000 than most of the team did. 9,296 damage with 6 kills earned him 1,200 base XP. He also had tank sniper and a top gun. Obviously he had the top gun. That was kind of the point of showing that replay, was how he got that top gun. And the shells, all of his shells hit something. It's just 2 of them bounced. So he was very nearly at the kind of the maximum possible amount of damage he could do with all of his ammunition. Obviously not the maximum potential damage, because you can have some high rolls, some low rolls, and it'll be something close to that. But even though he was, I don't know, even though he was mostly running premium ammunition, he actually only took a 12k loss on that. And for that amount of premium ammo fired, normally you would expect it to be a much bigger loss, but because he just did so much damage, it was actually a lot less. You know, you can that's one premium tank game easily covers that cost. So you know, it worked out, but I'm still not convinced that's a good loadout at all. So the next replay is going to be a lot more like what you think a BAT CHAAAT replay would be like, and I think it's going to be it'll maybe have a less amusing ending, but I think it is going to be maybe the more entertaining game. So we've gone from an 8-11 game to an 8-10 game. This is Steps Encounter, and this is from Shanaar. Now this is a fairly good map for a BAT CHAAAT under the right circumstances. The BAT CHAAAT's got a lot of speed, and you could almost argue that it is the best of the high tier scouts in a way. And that's what Shanaar's actually doing right now. He's trying to spot enemy tanks. It's got enough speed and enough maneuverability that it can get those early spots and get away in time. Now, like I said, this is a good map because it has some fairly wide open areas, and you can see Shanaar is actually, he's not thinking about getting tied down on any one flank just now. He's just kind of hanging loose, he's just seeing what develops, and oh, there's our Lorraine 40T gone already, and just looking for some opportunistic shots. He doesn't want to get tied down because of course the BAT CHAAAT doesn't have the armor for that sort of thing. If you can use your speed, if you can use your mobility and pop up in unexpected places and just wreak havoc that way, then so much the better. And that's exactly what Shanaar is going to try to do. It's exactly what he's got in mind. So there are a couple of tanks on the left flank, but the focus in Steps Encounter should always be on the right flank. You maybe need a couple on the left flank that can either hold back the enemies or even push on those enemies if they have sufficient numbers. But the thing is, if you're in a slow tank, getting from the left side of the map to the right side of the map isn't always possible. This is one of those maps where actually it's entirely possible that a team can cap out before you can get from one side of the map to the other, depending on the flank. Now he's just being sneaky right now. He's spotted the stuff there, but he's not stopping to engage. He actually wants to get behind the defenders, because there are a couple of people that have been spotted here. There's an IS-4 that's directly tangling with our IS-3 and SG-1, but this M103 and Object are basically alone, and he's just able to, look at this, he drives the M103 out in the open. This guy he doesn't know what the hell to do. He's desperately trying to drive away, but absolutely no chance at all. So he empties the rest of the clip, and that's another kill, so that's alright. Now, I initially thought he was going to go and just sit behind that rock and actually reload and make another run, but no, he's just... I don't know if he drives a lot of light tanks, but this is kind of what you would do in a high-tier light tank as well, maybe, if you had the speed. And he's just kind of circling, really. He's just looking for targets of opportunity while he reloads, and he's going to go back and he's going to finish off this Object 268, who is now entirely alone, as he knows. So, barring unforeseen, you know, stuff popping up that he doesn't know about, this should be a fairly easy kill. Puts one in, gets behind the guy, and he's just going to side hug him. That's two in, one more should do it. And oh, okay, oh, that's bad, that's a wasted shell, and he bounces one! Oh dear. Now, he definitely makes sure that last one connects, but that is so incredibly unfortunate. He just hit a bump in the terrain which threw his gun off just as he unloaded that second to last shot, the third to last shot rather, and then that second to last shot actually hit the rear armour, the top of the rear armour, top armour, I don't know what you want to call it, the engine deck armour, at such an oblique angle that it just bounced right off. Now the Waffle Panzer has actually climbed all the way up in the hills there, the KV-4's come over this flank as well, and again Shanaar is kind of driving away but kind of not. He's just, like I said, he's just kind of hanging loose, he's looking for opportunities, he's clearly got a plan in mind, and that's what you... once upon a time, when there were still some very decent, fast, active scouts in the game, which, you know, the T25 too, and you can still kind of do it with the 1390, maybe the WZ132, but it's looking for opportunities like that and being very sneaky and just exploiting the gaps in the enemy lines and getting in to do damage that way and just generally being disruptive. Now he's got one shell left, he's hoping to make use of it against something. Oh, but he's just been splashed and he takes a hit in the side from the other artillery. So he's found both artillery. That waffle is very low health. Fires and misses, okay. He's got to get to safety. This is unfortunate. He was not expecting to get shot in the side there. And it's probably a good thing that he didn't take any crew damage, which is especially important in an autoloader, but he also didn't really take any module damage beyond the tracks. So he takes a hit from that guy, rams him for his last 9 health because he's not yet reloaded. Fortunately, artillery fires and misses, but he is so low health now, 72 hit points. And I don't know where that shell went, to be honest, I really don't. Now the BAT CHAAAT 155.58 has unfortunately just nailed the ST1. The other flank, by the way, did not hold at all. I don't know if you noticed that. We've obviously been focusing about what's going on right in front of us, but the other flank unfortunately was just totally overpowered by, it looks like the T57 and the E50M and the Leopard 1. So basically it was their tier 10s. And while Shanaar was over here dancing around on this right flank, they just got nuked. And if Shanaar had been there as well, he probably would have, been able to make some difference, but maybe he would have died because this thing is not very survivable. It does not have great armor, and even ramming that Waffle Panzer IV for his last 9 health, that took some health off him that he really could not have afforded that he really wouldn't want to lose. And he's, so low health now that unless he gets incredibly lucky with a shell going in his tracks or a shot bouncing or whatever, even if he goes over a bit of terrain just that slightly bit too fast, that was such good English, right, that he is just, he's gonna die. And it's kind of down to him and this IS-3. Now he's got 10 shells left. Unlike Blayderunner, he's actually running with all APCR. And you know what? The APCR in this tank is absolutely fine. 260 penetration is more than enough for the vast majority of tanks. Oh, there we go. Catches the Leopard 1 in the open. This guy is so screwed. Right, there we go. He's been spotted. And it's now a case of ideally divide and conquer. If we can peel the T57 and the E50M away from each other, then that gives us a much greater chance of picking them off one at a time. If they present a united front, and we'll just check, because no, there are platoons in this game, but those two guys aren't platooned, so they're not going to be, coordinating or whatever. And there's the T57 rather. He fires one shot. And it does fire one on the move, and the one on the move actually, actually does. Oh, and he actually bounces. Yeah, that goes in his track. I don't know if that was a bounce or if it just went in the track and didn't actually damage him. But yeah, that was incredibly lucky. Like I said, he would have to be so lucky, and he was. That could very easily have killed him, and then it probably would have been game over. As it was, though, he managed to also damage the T57. Only one shell actually went in. But the guy's weaker now, and that's fantastic. That's great, Weaker is better. Easier to kill is better. He's done over 7,000 damage, and the IS-3 is on the cap. Now, this is going to act as a total... I'm trying to think of the correct, but it's going to be a beacon for the enemies. They are now going to be getting to the cap, if at all possible. And you can see he is actually skirting around the edge. He doesn't want to sit in the cap as well and tell them that that's where he also is. He is using his mobility, and he is trying to get the drop on these guys, but it's tough. Because in this situation, you can't really predict exactly what people are going to do. The E50M hasn't been spotted for a while. We don't know where that guy is. The T57 could be making a beeline for the cap. Obviously, this being encounter mode, there is it takes a lot longer to cap. So the T57 obviously is fast enough and would be confident of getting back. And there he is. Now Shanaar is not stopping to fire at that guy. He is probably going to be dead meat if he does. You know, at most he'd get one shot off before the T-57 unloaded in his direction, and the T-57 has a better shot-to-shot time than the BAT CHAAAT does. But the BAT CHAAAT obviously has some advantages of its own in terms of its mobility. Now, I think he spends a bit too long circling here. The IS-3 easily could have died if the T-57 Heavy had continued to the cap. Now, that's a turn up for the books. The E-50M has 1 health. Now, hopefully Shanaar's not thinking of ramming the E-50M for that 1 health. I don't think that would go very well. But this IS-3 is acting as bait right now, and Shanaar, whether he's intending to act as bait and hoping that Shanaar will actually, you know, do the business. Oh, there we go. Spotted the T-57. He's been spotted. The T-57, as we can clearly see, went looking for Shanaar, and that is kind of crucial, actually. That is going to make the difference between this being a loss and a win. The E-50M is, in fact, now alone, and Shanaar's plan to, I assume it was his plan anyway, to try and split these guys apart, to pick them off one at a time, has actually worked beautifully. Now, the E-50M is looking the other way, because the IS-3's come forward as well, and this IS-3 was actually playing fairly well. And Shanaar's shot bounces, and the IS-3 gets the kill, so, you know, well played to the IS-3. And again, I don't know if the IS-3 was intentionally sitting in the cap to be bait and hoping that Shanaar's a good enough player to actually protect him, basically, or to make use of the fact that he is acting as bait. Now, Shanaar swings out really wide here. I don't know quite why he's gone this far back, but we know he's not spotted. His 6th sense hasn't pinged off. So he's going to use the terrain, and he's going to move around, and he's going to get to cover. Now, this is... the T-57 Heavy could so easily kill the IS-3. But the IS-3, again, he's playing smart. He placed himself where he could get behind terrain, and he has taken a hit, but the T-57 is crucially going for him, rather than thinking there might be a BAT CHAAAT behind me, and that is his fatal mistake. He turns, but too late, the IS-3 gets the kill, and there we go. 2 shells remaining. So, you know, he had some ammo at the end of that. It, you know, made it look easy, frankly. Again, a bunch of kills. Again, a bunch of damage. Not quite as much damage as the previous battle, but still fairly impressive. 7,800 with 7 kills, which was enough for a top gun. It also got him his ace mastery with 1,377 base XP. And he actually had more base XP there than Blayderunner did. But obviously he did more kills. He made more kills, and if we look at the distance driven, 8.61 kilometers, and Blayderunner's distance driven was 3.18. So, you know, 3.18 still, that's about normal for a medium tank in a battle, I suppose, if you're moving around. 8 kilometers, on the other hand, is fairly unusual, and I think that's probably at the extreme of, you know, what you think of when you think of a BAT CHAAAT battle is all that running around the map and popping up in unexpected places and being disruptive and doing damage and all the things I was saying earlier. That's exactly, I think, what this battle showed. Maybe he made a couple of missteps along the way. Like I said, I'm not the expert in BAT CHAAAT tactics by any means. I'm probably not an expert in any tactics, to be honest, but moving swiftly on. That was still a really good game, and he absolutely cleaned up, and I think it's fair to say that he also really carried that. But that IS-3, he couldn't have done it without that guy, and he was 2nd place, Valaki043. That just goes to show a lot of people will be bottom tier in a tier 10 battle, or a tier whatever battle, and then they go, well, shrug my shoulders, you know, I can't do anything. Well, actually, circumstances depending, you know, brain power depending, there's a lot that you can do. And without the contribution of that IS-3, this would have been a loss. If the IS-3 hadn't been alive, and if he hadn't played smart at the end there is a real chance that this could have gone the other way, because it was, at the end, really on a knife edge. And it came down to... I think the real decider was the T-57 Heavy, instead of going to the cap, at which point the IS-3 would have been pinned by... You know, he would have been caught between the low-health E-50M and the T-57 Heavy, and at that point he would have been dead. Shanaar would have been alone against 2 people with no hit points. That would have been incredibly hard to come back from, but instead they split apart, and Shanaar used the mobility of the BAT CHAAAT incredibly well, and it came out as a win, a very close win, but a very good win in my opinion. So this is maybe you know, a bit more typical of the average Bat Chat game, the well-played Bat Chat game, I should you know, qualify that as. So yes, another tier 10 medium game. I probably will choose something different next time, but I thought these were an interesting set of replays, and you know, if you agree with me, you can say so in the comments below. That smooth transition, hey. You can hit the like button. You can leave, well, I already said that. You can leave comments. Wow. Wow. Not so smooth, eh? Not so smooth at all. You can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.